My essentials for venturing the outdoors locally would be starting off with navigation. So I would plan ahead where I'm going, for how long I'm going to be outdoors, and accordingly pack my day pack or my overnight pack. I would always have GPS with me and a compass, and these are the two major ones that I would definitely have on every trip. Sometimes, if I need to explore an area, I would download a map from Google about the area, so I could tell where the wadi is, where the peak of the mountain is, and then I can compare it to where I am. Another essential would be sun protection. Sun protection, whether through sunscreen, protect myself from sunburns and heat strokes. Sunglasses, always a big game player, because being outdoors here in the Rocky Mountains, these rocks will reflect UV and reflect sunlight on you same way you would be in snow. And it's always important to protect your eyes, because if you get if you start getting these sight damage, it'd be very hard for you to navigate, especially that here mostly it's uneven terrain and not a trail. And the one that is always good to have, whether it's cloudy or not, is a cap to protect you from protect your face from sunburns and from heat strokes. Another essential would be insulation. I always have a fleece with me, even though sometimes it could be hot during the day. If for some reason I decide to stay overnight, or I run into an emergency situation where I lose track of my trail, or I get injured and I have to stay overnight, it can get cold in the winter season here. It can get a fleece or a neck tube or a body warmer like merino wool is light, and it can be easily fit in my backpack, and I'll use it there if I for warming up myself, so I don't get into hyperthermia or I get cold, and I use it as a soft area to if I need to sleep and stay overnight in a rough ground. Usually I wear my warmer clothes and use my backpack as a pillow, and then I could survive the night. One more thing would be illumination, and that's very, very important to have. Again, if you run into any emergency situation and you did not, although you always, on a day trip, you always plan to start your hike and end your hike before sunset. If you are sometimes with a bigger group and you have those who are slower, that will affect the pace of the whole group, and then you end up finishing your hike past sunset, or you run into an emergency situation where you have to stay overnight. A flashlight, headlight is always important to have, because without it you cannot navigate the rough terrain we have here. Even though it's a trail, it's very dangerous to if there's no moonlight or if not a full moon, then you are completely blind. And I would say depend more on a headlight than a flashlight, because the terrain we have here is more about scrambling and bouldering and finding and scrambling your way through uneven terrain through the wadi, and not a trail. So a headlight will allow you to use your legs and your hands to navigate, while a flashlight you would always have to rely on one hand being occupied, or sometimes you have to use the flashlight in your mouth and trying to use it, which can be uncomfortable. So I would say always have a headlight with you, and that is an LED, where you can have it. It mostly comes in different stages, like high light, medium light, low light, and infrared. If you're in an area where it is damp, and there's some water around you, or it's more like you have palm trees and stuff like that, you would get a lot of mosquito, and to avoid getting a rash or bitten by mosquitoes that could cause you irritation or some kind of allergy, then infrared will give you enough light to navigate in that area without getting the mosquitoes onto you, because they can no longer see you. While if you have a bright light, that would attract the mosquitoes towards you and could be really annoying, especially when you're venturing into canyoning. That's very essential. And it's a light gear to have with you at all times, whether day or night. Another one would like never ever, no matter what you have to sacrifice for the sake of backpacking or going hiking lighter, is a first aid kit. A basic first aid kit is always essential, and you base it on how many days you're venturing out, whether it's a day or an overnight or multiple days, depending also on the group size you are, whether you were on your own, with a group of 2 or a group of 3 and more. And depending on that size, you will know how much of the first aid you need to bring with you. Essentials are very important, and we'll get into that more elaborately later on. But that's something that you should never sacrifice for the sake of weight, or for the sake of saying it's an easy route or not, and I wouldn't need it. Always have it at all times.